Lord of Mystery. The Return of the Stars Chapter 211 to 220. Ishara, you are getting more and more clingy now. Hasta took Azishara out of the carriage, who had jumped into the carriage several times. He had something to go out this morning and didn't want to take Azishara with him, but as soon as Azishara saw him boarding the carriage, she jumped out of the maid's arms and jumped onto the carriage, ready to go out with him. After being stopped by Hasta several times, it still came up again. There was no other way, but Hasta finally took it with him. Meow. Seeing that Hasta no longer chased her away, Azishara jumped onto Hasta's lap and meowed softly. I've never seen you so persistent in hunting at night. Hasta rubbed Azishara's head. In the 2 days since he came back from the suburban manor, he has driven Azishara out every night to let her learn hunting skills, and in this way help her digest the potion. Unfortunately, Azishara is not interested in the rats that emerge from the sewers and will never take the initiative to prey on them. Even if they met by chance on the roof, it would just scare the other person away, without any desire to take action. When he encountered a fight between a few stray cats and a stray dog, he watched it with gusto and looked like a wolf. This makes Hasta feel that it is a pity. If he had known it earlier, he would have let Azishara choose the audience path to satisfy its desire to eat melons. The carriage crossed the street and came to Backland Bank, where Hasta was going to meet a nobleman who was also from South Wales. It is said that because the situation in the southern continent has become increasingly tense and chaotic, many nobles and wealthy businessmen are worried that it will affect them in the future. Many people from the southern continent have fled to South Wales County, while most of the nobles from South Wales County have chosen to go to Backland. There were many people selling land from South Wales during this time, and Hasta was the only one he saw. Because his land is the missing piece of land around his own territory, which is very suitable for purchase. Once taken over, he can connect his entire territory into one. When Hasta appeared with Azishara in his arms, the nobleman from South Wales was obviously stunned. He probably didn't expect that the buyer of the land he was trading with was so young. The transaction process went smoothly. Due to many well-known situational reasons, Hasta lowered the already low price of land. For less than 5,000 gold pounds, he successfully purchased a large amount of land connected to his own territory from this nobleman. If converted, it is a little cheaper than the land purchased from Viscount Abel last time at a discount. Who makes the land now have a price but no market, especially the land in South Wales? There are very few people who really dare to take over it. Some people believe that as the chaos in the southern continent reaches its peak, the southern continent may spread the war to South Wales to relieve their internal pressure. Hasta does not rule out the possibility, and also believes that the situation in South Wales will not be too good in the future. As many wealthy merchants and nobles from the southern continent came to South Wales, pirates would definitely come smelling the smell of money. The coastal defense line in South Wales will definitely become more and more strenuous. For this reason, Hasta also wrote a letter to His Majesty the King with suggestions for strengthening coastal defense. As for whether the King can see this letter of opinion and whether he will adopt it, it depends on Earl Hall and Duke Negan. As long as the King openly discusses the South Wales matter, his opinions will most likely be adopted. After finishing the transaction, Hasta asked some more questions about South Wales and the South Continent. In the intelligence briefing in South Wales, the statement he gave was similar to what Viscount Abel said. Comparing the two, the credibility is very high. Most of the matters in the southern continent were discussed by a noble of the southern continent who was close to him. When the members of the Church of the Seven Gods first entered the southern continent, they used slogans that would not affect their intervention in the southern continent's civil war. However, slogans are only suitable for shouting and will become useless after a long time. The Church of the Seven Gods, which has been difficult to find the true foundation of the Rose School, especially the Eternal Sun Church, advocates starting a war that will sweep across the southern continent. By then, no matter where the remnants of the Rose School are hiding, they will all be affected by the war and exposed whereabouts. There is another theory that the reason why the remnants of the Rose School cannot be found is because they are hiding under the protection of the Bylong Empire. The Church of the Seven Gods is ready to break away completely, and at the same time, It will also take this opportunity to leave its own beliefs in the southern continent. Some radicals in the southern continent are preaching that the arrival of the Church of the Seven Gods is not to deal with the indulgence of the Rose School of Thought at all, but to use this as an excuse to start a civil war in the southern continent, and then unite with the countries of the northern continent to invade and occupy the southern continent, the rich land of the mainland. This statement is widely spread and is also a common sentiment among residents of the southern continent. If he hadn't known that the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun came specifically for the Superstar Lord, Hasta would personally believe this statement. Especially the goddess of the night, she absolutely covets the faith of the southern continent. Perhaps after some time, the Kingdom of Loan will appear and send its navy closer to the southern continent in the name of aiding the Church of the Seven Gods. At night, Hasta followed Greco to visit Duke Georgina Augustus. The briber's potion in his body is almost completely digested, and he only needs to do it step by step, which will take about 10 days to half a month. This Duke Georgina Augustus, he was not interested in meeting her originally. It was Greco who invited him and said it was a party with many nobles attending, so he came to meet the Duchess. It might even help the briber's potion be digested faster. The party was held at the private estate of Duke Georgina Augustus. Before they reached the door, they saw many aristocratic carriages parked on both sides of the road. This Duke Georgina Augustus is a legendary figure. She is very intelligent and capable. She is deeply trusted by the king. Even the princes are rushing to please her. There will definitely be many members of the royal family here tonight. If you are interested, you can try to make friends with them. However, you have to stop exuding your charm. Royal women are not easy to get along with. It will be very annoying if they are targeted. Of course, if you want to please Duke Georgina Augustus, you can show your masculine charm to your heart's content. She likes men who are handsome and brave. Facing Greg's nagging, Hasta, who hadn't even gotten out of the car, already regretted agreeing to attend this party with Greg tonight. Get off the car and walk into the gate of the manor. As the heir of Duke Negan, Greco naturally attracted the attention and communication of many people. While Greco was busy socializing, Hasta silently held the dinner plate and began to look for the best dessert tonight. He tasted a little bit of each dessert, and finally chose a more delightful layer cake as the winner tonight. Compared with the desserts at Earl Hall's house, the taste of the desserts here can only be considered average, which shows that Duke Georgina Augustus does not like desserts. Hasta went to taste some meat again and found that the cooking level and taste of these foods were excellent, far exceeding the standards of restaurants outside. You really have individual food likes and dislikes. While Hasta was busy tasting the food, a figure walked out of the room on the second floor and took the red wine from the attendant. His majestic gaze glanced around the downstairs, then stayed on Hasta for 2 seconds, then moved to other people, and finally landed on Hasta again. Someone immediately said, "That is Voltaire's son." It turned out to be him. The figure's gaze looked for a while, then glanced in other directions, never moving back again. Until the end of the party, Hasta did not see the Duke Georgina Augustus. In this regard, Greg's expression was very strange. Hasta asked him why, but he refused to say anything. It wasn't until Greg left that he said thoughtfully, "If I had known there was such a relationship, there would be no need for you to come here tonight." The Riddler, Hasta had the urge to punch Greg into a pig's head, and then shouted, "Riddler, get out of Backland." Fortunately, he thought about his identity as the returner of the stars, so he forgave Greg's behavior. Late at night, near the border of the West End and Queens. 2 drunk men walked through the alley and saw several stray cats looking for food in the trash can. When they passed by, the stray cats did not run away, but stood on the edge of the trash can, their eyes still searching for the food in the trash can. They were supposed to pass each other without infringing upon each other, but one of the drunkards suddenly grabbed a maroon stray cat that was very close to him, then lifted it up hard and threw it towards the wall. Meow! A scream of pain startled the stray cats nearby and fled in all directions. When the 2 drunkards saw this, they burst out laughing. Then they kicked the trash can, kicked it over, put their hands on each other's shoulders and walked away. As for the comatose maroon stray cat huddled in the corner, they didn't even want to take a second look. High on the roof, a small black cat chased the two drunkards in the direction they left with elegant and light steps. Ah! Ah! After a while, two screams pierced the night sky. The next day, there were two unlucky guys with white bandages on their faces in the West District. According to people who knew them, the two unlucky men were attacked by a black cat while drunkenly walking through an alley last night. Their faces were scratched and the pain was so painful that they sobered up in no time. In the next few days, the next unlucky man appeared near the West District. When he was drunk and walking through an alley, his face was scratched by a black cat, and his eyes were almost scratched. Some people even went to the police station to call the police because of this incident, and asked the police to dispatch personnel to clean up the stray cats hiding in the alleys. Euphemistically called, giving the West District a quiet night at night. This incident was even published in the newspaper. At the same time, Hasta, who saw the newspaper, sat on the balcony of his home, hugged Azishara who looked tired, raised his little paw, and shook it, claimed responsibility for the attack. West District, Nighthawks. Klein, who was just finishing an extraordinary mission, received a new mission. Cooperate with the police station to catch a black cat that may have problems. When Klein first heard the mission description, he thought he had heard it wrong. After all, he was a Sequence 8 clown. He only needed enough merit to get the corresponding extraordinary potion and successfully promoted to Sequence 7 magician. No matter how extravagant the Nighthawks were, they would not send a team member to deal with a black cat, right? But when he finished reading the file, he frowned slightly and had a new understanding of the case. Although the outrageous slogan of, "Give me peace in the West District late at night," was not realized, as the number of people attacked by the little black cat increased, the police station did send a 3-person team to haunt the alleys where crimes were frequently committed late at night. Unexpectedly, after 2 or 3 days of squatting, they really met a more special black cat. The black cat shuttled from the roof to every alley nearby, like a midnight ghost. At first, they didn't take it seriously, until the little black cat taught a drunk man who was bullying stray cats a lesson in front of them. Then they realized that this cat was not ordinary. But they couldn't catch up with the little black cat that could freely shuttle on the roof, and could only watch it leave. The drunk man who was attacked had his face almost scratched by the cat's claws. When Klein saw this, he didn't sympathize with the drunks who were attacked by cats at all, but felt sorry for the innocent stray cats. He didn't raise cats, but he liked cats inexplicably. These little guys seemed to have a special affinity with him. The situation of stray cats is already difficult. It's okay not to feed them some food, but they were also cruelly abused after drinking. Such a person was attacked by a cat, which was not worthy of sympathy at all. The people above believed that this series of attacks might be related to the witch sect. If a cat attacks a person a few times, it's possible, but if it happens many times, there may be other factors. During this time, the group of guys who were secretly looking for the Stars believers quieted down, so their captain gave him this small task and gave him a lot of freedom. Klein chose to accept this task. While looking for the black cat, he could also look for Lenivus's traces. This was a very cost-effective task for him. Through divination above the gray fog, he successfully got the revelation that Lenivus might be active near the East District. Late at night, a small black cat lay on the roof of a house, looking at everything below in a lazy manner. When its eyes swept across the sewer below, a very obvious expression of disgust appeared on its face. There was a slight rustling sound from the dirty and smelly sewer, and suddenly waves of rats fled out of the sewer frantically. Such a large number of rats soon attracted the attention of some stray cats nearby. They gathered together, and some stayed outside the sewer, waiting for the fleeing rats to come to the door. Some stray cats choose to enter the dirty and smelly sewers to hunt because of hunger. But strangely, there are many stray cats entering the sewers, but few of them can come out alive. Meow. In response, the little black cat made a puzzled meow. It has been paying attention to this sewer for a while, and has seen its black mouth swallowing countless stray cats, dogs and other animals. It wanted to enter the sewer to explore, but the stench there was unbearable, and it gave up every time. It couldn't tolerate its beautiful, smooth and fragrant hair being stained with the stench of the sewer. So it just stayed outside and waited for new things to happen. Tonight, it squatted patiently as usual. Suddenly found that in addition to the stray cats and dogs attracted by the sewer, there was also a round and fat man who entered the sewer. But not long after, the man screamed and retreated from the sewer, holding a bunch of things like weeds in his hands. There seemed to be something terrible chasing that person in the sewer. When the thing poked its head out of the sewer, the little black cat let out a shocked meow. That thing turned out to be a mouse, a very big mouse, much bigger than an ordinary stray cat, and about the same size as a stray dog. Its eyes flashed with madness and blood that had not yet coagulated flowed from the corners of its mouth, and there was a lot of cat hair on its body. It should have just preyed on more than one stray cat. Meow. The little black cat stood up, put away its lazy eyes, and ran angrily towards the entrance of the sewer below. The big black rat, who had originally planned to return to the sewer, saw a kitten that was obviously several sizes smaller than itself, coming to die. It lowered its head slightly, made a move to pounce on its food, and stared directly at the little black cat that was getting closer and closer. Meow. The little black cat took the lead in attacking. Its body was extremely flexible. When the big black rat pounced on it, it nimbly avoided the attack and instead waved its claws to leave a small bloody mark on the big black rat. The pain aroused the big black rat's ferocious nature, and it began to attack like crazy using its thick skin and huge body. The little black cat fought and avoided, always keeping a certain safe distance, and always seized the opportunity to win a bloody mark for itself with its claws. After suffering from a series of failures, the big black rat found an opportunity to run back into the sewer. No matter how the little black cat challenged him, he ignored it and disappeared quickly. The little black cat tried to move forward, but when it smelled the pungent smell of the sewer, it quickly avoided it and waved its little paws to try to dispel the smell of the sewer. After moving away, the little black cat found a place with water and washed its bloody paws. After confirming that the cleaning was completed, it left here and returned to its long-cherished home along the original route. When it returned home after a long journey, its owner was already standing in the house waiting for it to come back. It landed on the windowsill, pushed its head through the glass that was closed by the wind, let out a happy meow, and was about to jump into the arms of its owner. But just as its body was in the air, its neck was grabbed. Azishara, where did you go tonight? Why do you smell disgusting? Meow. Ashera's cat hair exploded. She had smelled it several times before, so she shouldn't have been contaminated by the smell of the sewer. That won't do. We need to clean it thoroughly first. Meow. Azishara lowered her head and made a reluctant sound. After washing it several times, she was sprayed with a little rose essence that was harmless to cats. After becoming fragrant again, Azishara lay in her nest, staring at her master in dissatisfaction. It had been washed clean, but he seemed to dislike her and didn't let her stay in his arms. Meow. Ashera looked away with some grievance and buried her head in her two front legs. Suddenly, her little head sank, and the familiar scratching made her feel very comfortable. She poked her head out again, closed her eyes, and made a happy meow. Azishara, the West District seems to be under martial law recently. You should try to avoid it during this period. No matter what happens in the future, you must be patient and not impatient. You're a natural assassin. Assassins don't fight face to face. You must learn to find the enemy's flaws. Then wait for the right opportunity to come and try to kill with one blow. Asta told Ashera a lot about the essence of assassins. Tonight, he also followed Azishara in the form of a spirit and witnessed the battle between Azishara and the big black rat. Azishara has the upper hand in agility. If the opportunity is right, there is a chance to scratch the weak throat of the big black rat with one claw. You can also choose to start with the eyes, lower abdomen and other places. After educating Azishara, Asta returned to his room to rest. The big black rat that suddenly appeared in the sewer tonight may be related to Lenevis. He remembered that after Lenevis escaped from Tingen to Backland, he had been imprisoned by the Aurora Society because of his special relationship with the real creator. In order to escape the control of the Aurora Society, he took many self-rescue methods. One of the methods was to pretend to be out of control, Then go to the sewer and secretly infect some creatures there with blood, turning them into vicious mutant monsters. Combined with the situation tonight, the sewer is very likely the place where Lenivus secretly infected with blood. Lenivus, let Klein deal with it himself. Asta had no special intentions against Lenivus. Of course, if Lenivus really appeared in front of him, he would not mind taking action to deal with him. The power related to the real creator in him did contain a lot of danger. It would be bad if he accidentally hurt Ashera. Above the gray fog, Klein once again divined Lenivus's whereabouts. This time he saw a sewer and saw the specific construction conditions nearby. He planned to go and investigate tomorrow, find this sewer, and then go to the sewer at night to wait under the pretext of looking for the little black cat. Klein was still very excited when he thought about meeting Lenivus and taking revenge on Tingen. What made him even happier was that if he could really defeat Lenivus, his contribution would be enough to be promoted to a Sequence 7 magician. Lenivus, ins Zangwil, wait for the revenge from Tingen. The next day, Klein began to search for the sewer that appeared in the divination screen according to the results of his divination. By the afternoon, he had found the sewer. This was because the divination this time was particularly clear, and the fog that originally shrouded Lenivus was dispelled a lot. He did not choose to alert the enemy, but went to St. Samuel Church to meet Leonard on the pretext of official business. Leonard, there is something I need to ask for your consent. What is so serious? Leonard was a little confused. About Lenivus. Klein tried to speak out his findings in a gentle tone. Leonard could hear the excitement and impatience hidden in Klein's calm tone. Does this still need to be asked? I have wanted to deal with that guy for a long time. After listening to what Klein wanted to say, Leonard became excited. As for Lenivus, he also remembered how Lenivus used Megos to target them. He and Klein almost died in that disaster. Not only them, but the entire Tingen was almost destroyed by them. Absolutely unforgivable. Leonard suppressed his excitement and anger, took a deep breath and said, in addition to the two of us, there is another suitable helper. Did Ms. Daly also come to Backland? Klein immediately guessed the helper Leonard was talking about. Yes, she just happened to come to Backland recently. This is a good opportunity. Yes, this is our luck and Lenivus's misfortune. Leonard and Klein smiled at each other, and their smiles were a little cruel. At night, Backland's daytime hustle and bustle seemed to have been shortcut. There was no prosperity and noise, only peace. Facts have proved that what really affects Backland's tranquility are the huge chimneys that constantly spew out smoke and the roar of the machines. But no one wants to admit this. For the rich, it is a symbol of wealth, and for the poor, it is where food and clothing are. The entire Backland, this behemoth, is only a place of hope and the capital of all cities when it is in motion. Otherwise, it is just an ordinary city. The stench in the sewer is not as strong as it is under the scorching sun during the day, but even homeless people are still reluctant to get too close to such a dirty place. Except for drunkards and people with ulterior motives, most people will be discouraged by the rats and stench in the sewer. Under the shining of the crimson moon, the rats in the sewers appear in groups again. During this period, many stray cats and dogs died, resulting in them having no natural enemies. Their range of activities is no longer limited to nearby areas, but they run to the streets and residences' homes openly. I'm about to lose control. I need to vent. I need to be alone. Damn it. Do you want to kill me? An angry and suppressed voice sounded in the sewer, and then three figures appeared near the sewer. One of them swayed and stumbled into the sewer. He had a hideous face and a ferocious expression. Enduring the pungent stench, he secretly cut a small cut on his wrist, and the blood, also with a fishy smell, flowed into the sewer. Soon there was a rustling sound from inside, as if some creatures were constantly scrambling to eat. After a long while, the other two people in the group urged, "Don't think about playing any tricks. If we hadn't helped you hide your whereabouts, you would have been discovered by the group of people in the Nighthawks team. You can only survive if you cooperate with us." For such words, Lenivus disdained to argue. He thought that he had completely gotten rid of the shadow of the real creator after the Tingen incident, but he didn't expect that he would still be pestering him. He is the real carrier of the real creator's future arrival. His child with Megos is just a trick to deceive others, and it is also to increase the pollution he has been exposed to. Since escaping to Backland, he has been visited by the crazy people of the Aurora Society. His personal safety has been controlled, and he can only gradually experience his body being occupied bit by bit. He couldn't just sit there and wait for death. He wanted to attract the attention of the Nighthawks and have them fight with the lunatics of the Aurora Society, just like how he got rid of Megos and Tingen. But it didn't seem to work very well. Some time ago, the incident of the Star Apostles made the whole of Backland abuzz, and no one paid attention to him at all. Now, the wave of Star believers seems to have receded, and he can do something, but unfortunately the Nighthawks here are much stupider than he expected. He was far less impressed by Klein from Tingen. If it was him, he should have noticed some abnormalities that he deliberately left behind. While Lenivus was thinking, he vaguely heard the sound of poetry recitation. Someone wanted to put him into a sleeping state through this method. Nighthawks. This familiar method made Lenivus guess the identity of the person at once. He was not surprised but happy. He finally had a chance to get rid of the control of the Aurora Society. He pretended to fall asleep and waited for the members of the Nighthawks to deal with the two people who were responsible for guarding him before choosing to escape. "Damn it! Who are you?" With a roar, the two men woke up from their sleeping state, but before they could do anything, a gunshot rang out, piercing one of them's head accurately. The bullet entered from his right temple and then stopped in his brain. The other man fell into a state of stupidity again, and his pupils dilated, as if he had seen something terrible. While he was affected, another bullet rushed over and hit his chest, and blood splattered. The flying knife, a flying knife that flew from nowhere, hit his lower abdomen. After two people fell to the ground, Lenivus no longer pretended, raised the corner of his mouth, and drew a hint of sarcasm, and prepared to leave here. "Lenivus! Finally we found you." Having his true identity revealed, Lenivus couldn't help but look up. There stood a familiar figure in front of him, Klein from Tingen, and behind him was another person he knew, Leonard, who was also from Tingen. "It turns out to be you again." The sarcasm at the corner of Lenivus's mouth was even stronger. Last time, it was these two members of the Nighthawks who helped him get rid of Megos, and now they came from Tingen to Backland to help him. He was really touched. "You can't run away today." Leonard didn't waste too much time talking to him, and took out a sealed object from his arms, a black crystal ball. It exuded a deep and dark light, and Lenivus couldn't look away once he looked at it, as if his mind was captured. At this time, Daly, who was hiding in the dark, finally used her soul-soothing method. This black crystal ball was a tool she lent to Leonard to help him calm Lenivus's mind. It really worked wonders now. Lenivus's eyelids were heavy, and he closed his eyes uncontrollably. Klein, who had been motionless, showed a combination of crying and laughing on his face, like a funny clown, holding a flying knife, approached and slashed Lenivus's throat with a knife. The short blade cut open the throat, and blood seeped out. Klein was about to stab him again, but his spirit was warning him frantically. He quickly pulled back and told Leonard and Daly to be careful. Faced with the fatal threat, the divine power of the real creator in Lenivus's body awakened, allowing Lenivus to regain consciousness instantly. At the same time, the blood that kept oozing out of Lenivus's throat was stopped, and the wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Ha, ha, ha!" Klein, who had already pulled a certain distance away, took out his pistol and fired continuously. Just now, he was afraid that the sound of the pistol would wake up Lenivus, who was in a state of repose, but now, he had no such concerns. Compared with cold weapons, pistols are more lethal. Lenivus relied on his perception of danger to avoid the first two shots, but was hit in the stomach by the third shot. However, not much blood flowed out, and the wound continued to heal. Seeing this, Leonard sneered, "So you have become an out-and-out monster." Lenivus was furious, and with the help of the divine power of the true creator, he was ready to perform blasphemous words. Daly once again used his soul-soothing ability to force Lenivus to fall asleep, but the divine power of the true creator was immune to Daly's means. But this interruption also affected Lenivus's blasphemous words. Daly suffered a backlash, retreated and coughed up blood. M's Daily, I'll help you, don't use nightmare to enter his dream. Daly hurriedly reminded Leonard, don't worry, I won't be so reckless. While Leonard was speaking, a voice in his heart also spoke, Steal. Kneel down, Leonard shouted, and Lenivus's knees fell to the ground uncontrollably. Klein took this rare opportunity to empty the magazine in an instant. Lenivus was hit by several bullets in the head. Although the bullets did not explode his skull, the severe pain made him completely crazy. But Leonard was even crazier than him. With blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, he shouted, Kneel down. Whip. The invisible mental whip began to whip Lenivus' body, causing him to twitch in pain. Unfortunately, Leonard wanted to take this opportunity to eliminate Lenivus, but Lenivus took back the extraordinary ability of the blasphemous words. Light. Klein directly cast a Yangan spell on Lenivus's face, and a dazzling light exploded. Ah! Lenivus, who was severely injured, was completely crazy. He had only one thought in his mind. Why didn't Mr. A come out to save him? The reason why he couldn't escape from those two people was that he was afraid of Mr. A, who was even crazier than him. Because of his existence, he could only sneak around like this. Now, he was on the verge of despair, but Mr. A didn't show up. Damn Mr. A. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Late at night, on the roof, under the crimson moon. A little black cat was curiously looking at the sewer below. The battle there was too interesting. Even from a distance, it could feel the resentful and terrifying breath from one of the figures. It was just that the power was temporarily suppressed and did not erupt completely, otherwise it would have fled to a farther place. And a few hundred meters away from the sewer, Mr. A, who was riding the strong wind, was stopped by someone at this moment. It was a figure wearing armor, holding a big sword, and with a blurred face. Just when he passed by here, this person suddenly appeared from the void and slashed him with a sword. It tore a hole in his back, but fortunately he had the ability to control flesh and blood, and stop the bleeding in time so that he was not seriously injured. His eyes were as sharp as a hawk, staring at the person in front of him who was obviously not his real identity. This person should know him, otherwise he would never appear out of thin air and slash him with a sword. Who are you? Mr. A spoke in a deep voice while constantly using the extraordinary ability of the Rose Bishop to heal the injuries he had just suffered. You can call me Mr. B. The voice was dry and hoarse, and it was a disguised voice. Quote. The other party's frivolous tone made Mr. A little more angry. This person obviously knew that he was Mr. A of the Aurora Society, otherwise he would not make up a Mr. B. But he still calmed down and tried to delay time so that his condition could recover a little more. Hee, I have seen Mr. B, you are not him. Is that so? Then I am Mr. C. There is only Ms. C but no Mr. C. Then I am Mr. A. Mr. A did not speak, but just felt very strange. Who is this person? Will there be any contradiction with their Aurora Society? From the tone of his voice, he has a certain understanding of the Aurora Society, but this understanding is very limited. For example, the person with the code name of the letter C is indeed called Mr. C, but she is a lady. This is something that many people who are not in the Aurora Society cannot understand, but there is no rule that ladies cannot be called gentlemen. Therefore, the people in the Aurora Club only need to ask this question to basically identify whether the other party is a member of the Aurora Club. If you want to become Mr. A, it is not impossible. As long as you are willing to join us, believe me, this is definitely your best choice. Mr. A finished this sentence slowly, and then his eyes lit up, and he used the extraordinary ability from the Sequence 7 Nightmare, trying to shock the other party from the spiritual level for a moment. At the same time, with the help of the strong wind, his figure exploded, and countless spider silk wrapped in cold currents swept from all directions. The sudden attack, nightmare, wind-loving, and the disease ability from the witch, multiple extraordinary abilities cooperated tacitly. Mr. A thought he could take down the other party in one fell swoop, but the other party seemed to have been prepared. His figure floated back, and the big sword in his hands slashed and chopped the spider silk.
The figure turned into the alley, and then suddenly disappeared.
Mr. A was stunned for a moment. The other party just left like that? Wasn't he here to stop him? Mr. A opened his spiritual vision and scanned carefully, and indeed did not find the other party. Not seeing the other party made him more alert. After waiting for a while, the figure did not appear again. Mr. A maintained limited alert and quickly rushed to where Lenivis was. He was able to sense the main aura. Although Lenivis had been suppressing that power, this aura had definitely attracted the attention of other extraordinary strongmen. He had to take Lenivis away immediately.
Less than 50 meters ahead, Mr. A's figure suddenly stopped and dodged to the right.
In front of him, a big sword with the light of dawn slashed in the air. If he had not sensed the danger in advance and stopped, he would definitely be split in half by this sword. Just as Mr. A was about to start counter-attacking, the man quickly turned into the alley and disappeared in front of him again, still without any trace.
Witches' invisibility. Mr. A was a little uncertain. He had fought with those witches more than once, and even hunted a witch himself and herded her. He had the extraordinary ability to spread diseases. The witch's invisibility skills could never do this, let alone hide it from his spiritual vision.
And the mysterious man just now was obviously a man, and the extraordinary ability he used should be the ability of the Warrior Path Sequence 6 Dawn Night. A magical item that can hide your whereabouts. Mr. A had a guess in his mind, and his mood became heavier. In this case, the other party was simply a top-level assassin. He was elusive and difficult to catch. In order to prevent being plotted against by the other party again, Mr. A used spider silk to cover the surroundings. Once someone approached, he would definitely be alerted in advance, and at the same time, he intensified the danger perception from the devil.
With double protection, Mr. A continued to rush towards Lenevis's location. Halfway through the journey, his spirituality began to warn him, and he stopped, but he could not see the trace of the mysterious person.
This made Mr. A very annoyed. The other party's strength should be inferior to his, but he could not find his whereabouts. He had a lot of strength, but could not find someone to vent his anger. He also wanted to patiently find the other party, but the breath coming from Lenivis in the distance was becoming more and more uncontrollable, which showed that Lenivis was in extreme danger and might release the suppression at any time, allowing the power of the Lord to burst out completely. Once it bursts out, it can no longer be suppressed. Now is not the time for the Lord to be born, and he needs to absorb more negative emotions.
Damn it! Mr. A no longer cares about the other party, and uses all his strength to drive the extraordinary ability of the Wind Follower to hurry on. Along the way, his demon danger perception warning has never stopped, which means that the other party has been following him.
When passing a corner, dazzling light exploded violently in front of him, and Mr. A subconsciously formed an ice shield with cold current to protect himself.
Not good. Mr. A was suddenly shocked and hurriedly shifted the position of his heart a little to the left. A big sword with the light of dawn passed through his back and almost pierced his heart.
Fortunately, he had moved the position of his heart in advance, otherwise he would have suffered a serious injury. He coughed up blood, looked back at the figure holding the big sword, and spit out a small piece of internal organs. Blood and flesh spurted out, and the disease raged. The figure left in a hurry without looking back. Mr. A took a deep breath and covered the pierced wound with his right hand. The blood and flesh squirmed and gradually wrapped the wound.
If it weren't for the fact that this sword contained the power of the sun, such as the power of breaking demons, this wound would not be a big deal for him.
Bishop Rose's flesh and blood regeneration ability can restore even a broken arm, but it just takes a little time.
No time to delay. Mr. A stopped the bleeding from the wound and sped towards Lenevis. Ahem, Mr. A is really difficult to deal with. In the room, Hastur's spirit had returned to the flesh. Although he caused a lot of damage to Mr. A with the last sword, he was also affected by Mr. A's flesh and blood mixed with disease abilities. Even if the spirit returned to the flesh, it was still infected with a certain disease. With his barbarian physique, it is estimated that he only needs to sleep at night and he will be back to normal tomorrow. He can still afford this price. This battle tonight made him see the horror of Mr. A's shepherd sequence.
In just 3 short encounters, Mr. A used the extraordinary abilities of Gale, Disease, Demon, Nightmare, and his own sequence. This should not be all of Mr. A's grazing abilities. If he remembered correctly, the Shepherd sequence could graze up to 7 souls. As the sequence improved, the souls that could be grazed and the extraordinary abilities that could be used would increase. He also had a creeping hunger in his hand, but each time he used it, he had to devour a soul. He would not use it unless he met the right person. Shepherds are indeed the most powerful sequence under the demigods.
Asta sighed, coughed heavily again, and looked at the location of the sewer in the distance.
He estimated that with the strength of Klein and others, it should be difficult to kill Lenivus, who had the true creator's divinity in his body, unless they had other arrangements. Normally, they would report to the Red Gloves team before taking action. And he had helped them block Mr. A for quite a while. If they still couldn't end the battle, then this revenge from Tingen would end in failure.
Hastur waited by the window for a while, and he was relieved when Ashera came back.
Without him waving, Azishara jumped directly from the edge of the windowsill into his arms, meowing non-stop, as if to share with Hastur what she saw and heard tonight.
Hastur listened silently, and waited until Ashera finished meowing before taking her to take a bath.
Meow? Azishara struggled in dissatisfaction. She never liked taking a bath.
Are you trying to say that you didn't get any strange smell tonight, so you don't need to take a bath?
Meow. Won't you sweat running back and forth like this? If you sweat, you should take a bath. Meow. Azishara shrugged her head and was handed over to the maid by Hastur to wash. He also took a hot bath to drive away the coldness in his body. After taking a bath and returning to the room, Hastur closed the window tightly and hung the paper cranes given by Will in front of the window to prevent Mr. A from knocking on the window to visit in the middle of the night. After doing all this, he lay on the bed, wrapped in a thick quilt and fell asleep. The night faded away, and dawn arrived. Some people had not slept all night, while others were wrapped in blankets and sleeping soundly. In a room of St. Samuel's Church, there were 2 beds, each with a person lying on it. The bright morning light shone from the window, stimulating people to wake up from their deep sleep. Klein and Leonard woke up almost at the same time. They first looked around, then looked at each other, and were stunned for a moment, then their mouths gradually opened, and they laughed out loud. They finally killed Lenivus last night. Although in the end, it was the captain of the Red Gloves team who killed him with the Holy Bone sword. But the 3 Avengers from Tingen participated in this killing together. If a powerful Beyander had not suddenly appeared at the last moment, snatched the divinity in Lenivus's body, and spread the terrible disease, the 2 of them would not have needed to lie in bed. There is only one Ince Zanguil left. Leonard squirmed and let his upper body lean against the pillow. Do you think he will be frightened by our arrival? No, he is a very arrogant person, and we are not strong enough to threaten him now. Leonard sighed. It took 3 of them to deal with Lenivus last night, but they still needed the Red Gloves to cover them. In the future, if they want to deal with the more difficult Ince Zanguil, they need to hurry up to improve their strength. At least they need to have the strength of Sequence 5 to pose a threat to Ince Zanguil. Klein folded his hands under his head and coughed before saying, I should be able to advance to Sequence 7, and I am not far from catching up with Ince Zanguil. Your contribution this time is enough. When you advance to Sequence 7, you will probably become a true captain of the Nighthawks, just like our beloved Captain Dunn. Become a captain? Klein looked disappointed. Although his current life is not bad, it is very stable, and he can also use the power of the Church of the Goddess of Night to protect himself. But he always felt that something was missing. His life path seemed to have become too smooth all of a sudden. What's wrong with being more stable? People should learn to be content and not be ungrateful for what they have. Klein counseled himself in his heart, and his complicated emotions were relieved a lot. He received a letter from Benson some time ago, saying that the 2 of them would try to come to Backland before the New Year to celebrate the New Year with him. New Year? It's almost November now, and it's only 2 months away from the New Year. Should I prepare some New Year's goods in advance? I also need to rent a bigger house so that Benson and Melissa have a place to live. It should take half a month to pass the church review and be promoted to level 7, and my salary will definitely increase a lot again. If I can really become the captain of a night watchman team, then my salary can increase a little more. It's a pity that it's still difficult to afford a house in Backland.
Klein thought about it, his eyes slightly red. He missed home a little, his original home.
The two chatted for a while, and Daly pushed the door in, accompanied by the main force last night, the captain of the Red Gloves team, Crest Sesama, who solved Lenivis at the last moment. How was your rest? Daly came over with a smile and brought a portion of food for each of them.
Not bad, but I'm a little weak and powerless. Leonard lifted his body up a little, put the food box on the quilt, and started eating. He was really hungry.
That should be the remnant of the disease ability. Fortunately, there is not much, just equivalent to a small cold. Crestai explained beside him.
The person who appeared at the end seemed to have many extraordinary abilities. Klein couldn't remember which extraordinary abilities that person used. They were very diverse and powerful.
He is the shepherd of the Aurora Society. I guess he is Mr. A. Shepherd. Klein heard Little Sun introduce the horror of this sequence. It was indeed very scary when he faced it in person. The Aurora Society has been hiding in the dark and plotting something. Although we were unable to stop Mr. A last night, we were able to kill Lenivis, the carrier of the evil god. This is also a great achievement. You can ask for anything you want.
Leonard didn't want anything for the time being, so it was recorded as a great achievement. Klein got the extraordinary potion of the Sequence 7 magician as he wished. There was no potion formula, but the finished product. After finishing these things, Cresty mentioned what happened last night again. Someone helped us in the dark last night. He seemed to have delayed Mr. A for a long time, creating an opportunity for you to deal with Lenivis. Not only that, Klein, didn't you take on the task of tracking down the little black cat? It also appeared last night. It should have witnessed the battle in the sewer. In this regard, Klein could only sigh that all this was really a coincidence. Leonard filled his stomach with food and thought seriously, could it be that the little black cat was the one who helped us hold Mr. A back last night?
Klein and the others looked at each other in bewilderment. Finally, Klein sighed and said, Leonard, you need to rest a little more. Ms. Daly also smiled and said, your guess is very imaginative. Queens, Earl Hall's house. Audrey was very happy today. Not only did she buy a copy of the Emperor Roussel quotations that Susie had been dreaming about, she also bought a copy of On How to Cultivate the Wisdom of Puppies as a gift for Susie.
Audrey, did you encounter any good things today?
Well, I can finally join the Psychological Alchemy Society.
Audrey's face was filled with smiles. During this period, she expressed her curiosity and yearning for psychology at various tea parties. Sure enough, after a period of baiting, a fish finally took the bait.
And that person also wanted to use extraordinary abilities to find out whether what he said was true. But unfortunately this little trick naturally didn't work on her. Audrey, congratulations. Don't worry, when I am promoted to Sequence 7 psychologist, I will also help you find promotion opportunities. Susie wagged her tail, very satisfied with this statement, and couldn't wait to open the Emperor Roussel quotations and start reading it. Susie, do you need me to buy you a pair of glasses? I want the ones with gold rims. Where did you see these glasses? Of course, in a book. Well, Audrey now understands that it is difficult for her to win over Susie. Especially Susie, who is now concentrating on studying Roussel's quotations, will definitely say things like Roussel once said in the future. Susie, how about we go to Mr. Osta's house this afternoon? I want to read a book. I'll read it when I get back. But, there is no but, Susie, you have to know how to combine work and rest, and you will become stupid if you keep reading. Audrey, you haven't read much, is it because you are afraid of becoming stupid?
Quote. Audrey took a deep breath and decided to be generous and not argue with Susie.
Afternoon, more than 3 o'clock. Audrey arrived at Osta's door in a carriage. She came here for another thing today. She wanted to buy Roussel's diary. Mr. Osta seemed to have mentioned last time that he had recently received a new batch of Roussel's diaries. Miss Audrey, good afternoon. Osta carried Azishara out of the house, intending to let her meet Susie. Sure enough, Azishara and Susie seemed to have some kind of chemical reaction when they met for the first time.
The cat and the dog looked at each other up and down. Ashera raised her head with dignity and looked down at Susie, as if saying, I am much more noble than you. I can be in the arms of my master, while you can only be led by the master with a rope. Woof. Susie, who understood this meaning, looked at Audrey and motioned her to pick her up.
Audrey was speechless. This request was a bit too difficult for her.
Although Susie's current weight was not very heavy, she looked a little chubby. It was not elegant to hold her like this.
She could only smile and say, this little cat is so cute. Meow. Azishara was even more proud, slightly closed her eyes, and looked at Susie with a look of looking at a silly dog. Susie silently found a suitable place to lie down, closed her eyes, and did not argue with Azishara. Azishara, go play with Susie. Meow. Azishara showed strong reluctance, holding Hastur's arm and clothes with a pair of claws, looking at him with a wronged look.
Go ahead, it's good to make more friends. Asta still put Ashera on the ground, and Audrey also smiled and said, Susie, don't bully Ashera casually later, be friends with her. After the instructions, Audrey and Hastur went to the second floor to chat, and asked their respective maids to take care of Susie and Ashera. Meow. Ashera walked gracefully, passed in front of Susie, and deliberately glanced at her, which meant that I will not get along well with you, you stupid dog. Woof. Susie opened her eyes, glanced at Ashera who walked a distance away, and sneered disapprovingly. When Ashera looked back, Susie stood up and began to walk gracefully. Because of Audrey's influence over the years, and Audrey herself is very elegant, Susie simply imitated her and her elegance surpassed Ashera in an instant.
Meow. Woof. On the second floor, Hastur and Audrey stood at the railing, overlooking the cat and dog below. Seeing that Susie was actually imitating her own graceful steps and deliberately showing off, Audrey couldn't hold back at all. You know, Susie, well, it always likes to imitate, because it is very smart, so sometimes it will imitate my walking. I really didn't teach it how to step its feet in sequence or the appropriate height to raise its feet. Audrey's cheeks turned slightly red. Seeing her efforts to explain, it seemed more like she was confirming that she had taught Susie how to walk gracefully. Mr. Hastur, let's go inside and talk. Audrey took a deep breath, pretending that nothing had happened, and calmly dealt with what had just happened. In her heart, she regretted that she should not have taught Susie how to walk gracefully on a whim. When she thought of how she carefully taught Susie to raise her legs and step, she felt like her cheeks were burning. Susie is really smart. Asta gave a comment and led the way. When he came to the door of the study, he said again, Susie walks so elegantly. Miss Audrey must have worked hard to teach her, right? Audrey was stunned in place. After Hastur had entered the study for a while, she realized what she was doing. She tried her best to suppress her shyness. At least she looked calm on the surface and was not disturbed by those words at all. Mr. Hastur, your joke is not funny. Well, I just have reasonable doubt. You always do interesting things when you are young. Was Mr. Hastur always so calm and wise before? Audrey calmed down and answered the question openly so as not to be too embarrassed. Speaking of which, teaching Susie to walk gracefully is also an honor for the master. Seeing that Audrey had regained her composure, Hastur had no intention of continuing the topic, and instead said, I recently got a new batch of Russell's diaries, but some of them haven't been thoroughly studied yet, so I can only sell a few of them first. As long as the water flows, Audrey is not disgusted with this kind of transaction. Hastur pulled out 4 Russell diaries from the drawer and handed them to Audrey. Seeing her look like she had found a treasure, he felt a little guilty. These 4 diaries of Russell were all imitated by him at that time. There are not many specific contents, but there are a lot of stories about Russell's romantic affairs. I hope Mr. Fool can hold on. Anyway, he doesn't want to watch it a second time to avoid contaminating his eyes. Is it still the original price? Audrey's sudden, made Hastur stunned for a while. Will the always heroic Miss Audrey also learn to bargain with herself? Asta was silent for a while, then tried his best to choose his words and said, if Miss Audrey is in financial difficulty, the price of each diary is not non-negotiable. What if I'm in a very, very difficult financial situation right now? 100 gold pounds for a copy of Russell's diary? When Audrey said this, Hasta directly gave her a half. Mr. Hasta is so generous. Okay, deal. Audrey didn't give Hasta the slightest chance to go back on her word, and directly finalized the deal. Although he still made 400 gold pounds, Hasta always felt that he had lost 400 gold pounds. Judging from Audrey's cheerfulness and pain, she didn't feel financially strapped at all.
I'm not deceiving Mr. Hasta. A few days ago, I invested in a new project according to Earl Hall's arrangement. Audrey explained softly.
Hasta frowned slightly and said, with Earl Hall's wisdom, you shouldn't need to spend a penny of your own money, but directly apply for a mortgage loan from the bank, right? Audrey looked embarrassed and her eyes were a little wandering. She did invest in new projects, and she did not spend a penny. The reason why I just said that was to enjoy the fun of making money from Mr. Hasta, even though the money was originally hers. Seeing Mr. Hasta staring at her, Audrey pretended to be calm and said, Mr. Hasta, I have a literary salon to attend later. I will leave today. We will talk when we have time later. What could Hasta say? He could only send Audrey, who was obviously holding back her smile, out of the study and down the stairs. In the lobby on the first floor, Azishara, who was asking Susie for advice on how to be more elegant, stiffened slightly, shook her black hair, ran to Hasta's feet, and put her little feet on his trousers.
Hasta bent down and hugged Ashara. Susie on the other side glanced at the indifferent Audrey with a resentful look, turned around silently, and walked towards the door step by step. At this moment, its figure seemed full of vicissitudes of life, as if countless stories had happened to it.
Audrey's eyelids twitched slightly. She knew that Susie's addiction to drama was coming back. But it's okay, as long as you don't pay attention to it, it will return to normal after a while.
Susie, Emperor Russell once said, life is a lonely journey that is not understood. Only by learning to enjoy loneliness can you go further.
Hasta's voice made Audrey's heart skip a beat, and sure enough, Susie made a sound that was almost a whimper, and then walked out of the door without looking back. Audrey was stunned. She didn't know if this sentence came from the mouth of Emperor Russell, but Susie, you are a dog. How come you were always easily touched by people's words?
Susie is really smart. She easily understands what I say.
Hasta had a faint smile on his face, and he looked very appreciative of Susie. Mr. Hasta has also read the complete collection of quotations of Emperor Russell, right? No, Hasta answered this question very honestly. He just said it casually and then attributed it to Russell. Audrey didn't say much and led the two personal maids away.
At the gate, Susie was lying on the ground, wagging her tail lazily.
Audrey wanted to laugh, but she held back her smile and pretended to be stern. Susie, don't you want to enjoy the lonely journey alone?
Woof. Susie immediately got up from the ground, came to Audrey, and started to please her.
The general meaning is, although the lonely journey is good, I have Audrey to accompany me.
HMPH, let's go. Audrey raised her chin slightly, with a smile on her lips. It was a happy afternoon.
After sending Audrey away, Hasta looked down at Azishara, who was pretending to be dead, stretched out a finger to tease its little head, and said after waking it up,
Didn't you just learn how to walk gracefully from Susie? Come, let me see how well you learn.
Meow. Don't deny it, I've seen it on the second floor. Meow. Azishara whispered, and then jumped out of Hasta's arms when he was not paying attention and ran away. At night, Hasta was about to go to bed, and came to the window and found a line of words on the paper crane sent by Will. Double ice cream. Is there something good to inform me? Hasta understood what Will meant by this sentence, took off the paper crane, put it in the palm of his hand, and then went to bed and fell asleep. In his dream, Will appeared in a wheelchair, pushing the wheels forward by himself. Hasta asked curiously, aren't you discharged from the hospital? Can't I sit in a wheelchair after being discharged? Of course, do you need my help? No, I can support myself. Hasta laughed, and walked over to push Will's wheelchair, saying, if that's the case, then you should be able to make your own ice cream. There's free food to eat, why should I waste my time?
Will rolled his eyes at Hasta, as if wondering how he could ask such a question.
After chatting for a while, Will told the purpose of tonight's visit.
That Earl Gill has been irritated by his unfilial descendants these days, and he will probably die in his bed tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night is an opportunity to seize the corrupted barren extraordinary characteristics of Earl Gill.
Although this is a bit immoral, I have been waiting for this day for a long time.
Asta is in a good mood, and his briber potion has almost been digested. He only needs to take away Earl Gill's extraordinary characteristics, then he can be promoted to Sequence 6. Hasn't morality been thrown away when you chose this extraordinary path?
Will, you are right, so I have decided that you can find a way to eat ice cream in the future. Quote. Because I have no morality, I will naturally not follow the principle of repaying favors.
Will's forehead flashed with black lines, and he changed the subject and said, I have another thing to discuss with you tonight. Will, you actually used the word, discuss. Asta's expression became serious, but Will rarely spoke to him in such a tone. The thing is, I have been used to eating chocolate ice cream and strawberry ice cream recently. I want to change a few flavors. I heard that a rainbow ice cream is popular recently. Each color has a different flavor. I also want to taste it. This is the main purpose of your finding me tonight, right? You can't say that. This is a bonus. Will smiled awkwardly, left a sentence to remember to send rainbow ice cream, and disappeared. St. Mary's Hospital is a large hospital located in the West District. Those who come here for treatment are either rich or powerful. At the gate, Asta passed by in a carriage and lifted the curtain of the carriage to observe the specific situation of this hospital. According to the information provided by Will, Count Gill will die in this St. Mary's Hospital tonight, and the bed he is currently in is in the 5th ward from the right to the left on the 3rd floor facing the street. Asta did not stay for long, but simply took a look and asked the coachman to drive the carriage away. On the way, he passed by the place where Klein's Nighthawks team was. This is what the Nighthawks team told him when they asked him for help last time. Asta measured the distance between here and St. Mary's Hospital, and silently calculated the time needed to travel. Tonight, he wanted to snatch Count Gill's extraordinary characteristics, and he needed to fight with the people of the Steam and Mechanical Church. If the fight lasted too long, it would easily attract the attention of the nearby Nighthawks team. It's not a big problem. Asta felt that his invisibility should be able to make a quick decision. At night, in a ward of St. Mary's Hospital, Count Gill, whose life was about to come to an end, trembled and stretched out his fingers to scold his unworthy children and grandchildren, but in the end he did not have the strength. His palm fell on the white quilt, and his eyelids closed heavily. Soon, a sad cry came from the ward. There were many cries, and there were many people crying. The ward was already crowded, and many people stood outside the hospital corridor and shed tears silently. There were also a few angry curses in the bursts of crying. It was Count Gill's friends who were teaching Count Gill's unworthy children and grandchildren. Max Livermore was the captain of a mechanical heart team responsible for guarding the Russell Memorial Exhibition, because of his poor performance last time and some personal family reasons. During this period, he has been taking tasks outside to keep himself busy so as not to worry about those annoying things. This Count Gill was also a clergyman of the Steam and Mechanical Church when he was young. He left the church in his 30s and began to mix in the circle of powerful people in Lowen. It took him 20 to 30 years to be promoted from an ordinary baron to an earl, and he was a very good person. The only thing he failed in was the education of his children and grandchildren. He had a son in his later years, and he only had one son. His overly doting education made his son a second-generation ancestor who only knew how to eat, drink and enjoy himself. This time, he secretly took the family's land deeds out for gambling. When Earl Gill learned the news, he was already in poor health, and he was so angry that he went directly to the hospital. During the hospitalization, his son and grandson were not supervised by anyone, and continued to spend money and gamble outside, and finally succeeded in angering Earl Gill to death. Before Earl Gill died, he received news that he was asked to lead 2 team members to recover the extraordinary characteristics of Earl Gill after his death. In order to show the human side of the church's law enforcement, He stood outside the door and waited for the people inside to cry for half an hour before leading the team members to go in and temporarily persuade the relatives and friends in the ward to leave. Close the doors and windows, and then begin to extract the corrupted Baron extraordinary characteristics in Earl Gill's body. This extraordinary characteristic is not only the extraordinary characteristic of Sequence 6 corrupted Baron, but also contains 4 extraordinary characteristics: Sequence 9 lawyer, Sequence 8 barbarian, and Sequence 7 briber. The value alone is enough to reach several £1,000s. Earl Gill left his extraordinary characteristics to the church before his death, so that the church can help his descendants a little in the future, even though his descendants are not very motivated. When the extraordinary characteristics were separated one by one, Max Livermore asked the team members to save and seal each extraordinary characteristic separately to avoid possible extraordinary spread and infection. This process was very fast, only about 10 minutes. Compared with the tasks they had performed in the past, the task of recovering extraordinary characteristics seemed very simple. Max Livermore came to the window and glanced outside to prevent anyone from peeping in the dark. Now that there are too many extraordinary people mixed in Backland, there are more extraordinary people who dared to take risks. If they knew that there was such a big gift in the hospital tonight, they would definitely come here after smelling it. When the 4 extraordinary characteristics were separated and stored separately, the surroundings were still silent. Max Livermore also let down his guard a little. He carried the safe containing the most important Sequence 6 corrupted Baron extraordinary characteristics, and the other 3 were kept by his teammates. After finishing the work, he led the team members to perform the ritual of the steam and mechanical church to Count Gill, who had closed his eyes on the bed. This was a blessing and a farewell. As they were saluting, Max Livermore suddenly saw a golden sword slashing towards his arm holding the safe. It was very fast, and he subconsciously wanted to retract his arm, but he frowned slightly and did not retract his arm, but shouted "Iron Arm." A silver bracelet appeared on his wrist, which flowed like mercury, covering Max Livermore's entire arm, and blocked the golden sword. Crack! Although the arm was not cut off, the silver bracelet was directly cracked, and he was swept away by a huge force. Seeing this, the 2 opponents on the side also hurriedly activated their extraordinary weapons to try to subdue the attacker. But in their eyes, they could only see a big sword attacking their captain, and they couldn't see the position of the attacker at all. At this moment, their captain was kicked away again, and the safe in his hand finally slipped out of his hand. Imprisoned, one of the team members threw a small round ball, which emitted lightning and formed a small thunder prison to protect the safe inside. At the same time, another team member, a light gray ring on the index finger of his right hand, turned into a crossbow, and he was aiming at the upper position of the big sword. Unfortunately, the big sword just swung lightly and shattered the small thunder prison. As for the crossbow arrows shot over, he didn't even dodge. A figure wearing armor and whose face could not be seen clearly walked out of the invisible state, walked straight over and picked up the safe. Damn it! Max Livermore climbed up from the ground, his face full of anger, took out a pocket watch from his arms, and threw it at the mysterious figure. The golden pointer in the pocket watch moved, and the surrounding time seemed to be stopped for a moment, and then began to go back. But the mysterious figure just swept the safe in his hand around and swept the pocket watch to the opposite wall. Time, which had not started to go back, was set right again and started to flow again. Another team member took out his handgun and prepared to shoot. "Don't shoot," Max Livermore hurriedly stopped him. Because of the noise in the ward, the people waiting outside the door were afraid of something happening, so they hurriedly opened the door. If they shot at this time, it was not certain whether they could keep the mysterious man, and those outside would definitely suffer heavy casualties. Among the people who came to the hospital to send Earl Gill tonight, there were many nobles. Not daring to shoot, the 2 members and Max Livermore rushed up to prepare for hand-to-hand combat. They were familiar with using extraordinary weapons and replaced weapons such as guns and crossbows with electric batons, swords, and iron gloves. At this time, a blood-colored vortex formed around the mysterious figure. The blood of the people around them was flowing out of their bodies uncontrollably. "Ah, what's going on? Go find someone to help." The people waiting outside the door finally reacted, but because there were too many people waiting in the corridor outside the door, the situation quickly caused chaos. The mysterious figure rushed like a barbarian, knocking several people away in succession, and then quickly disappeared at the corner of the corridor. Max Livermore and the other two appeased everyone while hurriedly chasing after him. But when they chased to the corner, they could no longer see the trace of the mysterious figure. Max Livermore looked at the empty and quiet hospital corridor, his face turned blue, and he didn't know what to say for a while. "Captain, are you still chasing?" "Chase?" Max Livermore suppressed his irritability, left a team member here to take charge of the situation, and led another team member to chase out. But from the time they found the first-floor lobby from the third-floor corridor to the outside of the hospital, they did not see the mysterious figure again. And they asked the staff in the hospital, and they all said that they did not find any suspicious people. Only those who had experienced the turmoil in the corridor at the entrance of the ward on the third floor could clearly see the mysterious figure. Invisibility. Invisibility that can conceal the whereabouts of the spirit. Max Livermore thought for a long time with a dark face, and finally figured out how the other party could lurk in the ward without alerting anyone, and how he could completely disappear after just passing a corner. Ordinary people cannot open their spiritual vision and cannot see the spirit of extraordinary people. As long as they can hide the spiritual vision of other extraordinary people, the effect of invisibility can be achieved. Although he already knew the principle, he could not figure out how the other party did it. Because he couldn't do it, many extraordinary people couldn't completely hide their spirits. "Captain, what should we do next?" Max Livermore rubbed his aching eyebrows and waved his hand, saying, "Report it. And then draw a portrait of the mysterious figure to see if we can find relevant information from the church's database. Count Gill's relatives and friends want us to give me an explanation. How should we answer? Tell them that a thief was hiding behind the curtains just now, preparing to commit theft, and ran away after we found him." Max Livermore patiently began to deal with the aftermath. After doing all this, he collapsed on a bench in the hospital corridor. Why did he encounter such bad luck again? Max Livermore really felt that he had been unlucky recently. Guarding the Roussel Memorial Exhibition was originally a very leisurely task that could earn a lot of credit. However, a treasure left by Emperor Roussel was stolen right under the nose of his team. In order to make up for his mistake, he had to ask the magic mirror a Rhodes, exchanging questions for questions. This also led to the breakdown of his relationship with his wife and family discord. He finally cheered up again, but tonight, the task that he was supposed to be responsible for went wrong again, and a sequence 6 corrupted Baron's extraordinary characteristics were stolen. And it was snatched from his hands. Invisibility. Theft. Damn it! Could this be the same person? Max Livermore stood up from the bench in an instant, feeling excited. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. "Okay, let's settle the old and new grudges together. This time I must find out your true identity and let you taste what pain is." At this moment, he had thought of dozens of torture instruments that could torture people. After the excitement, he sat back on the chair and frowned. Last time, even the magic mirror of a Rhodes did not give any obvious clues, which showed that this mysterious person was very good at hiding his tracks. How could he find out his whereabouts, then check them one by one? Max Livermore stood up again. He wanted to check everyone who had come to the hospital today. There were not many people who could accurately grasp the physical condition of Count Gill. The mysterious person must be among those who came to visit him a few days ago. He could do some investigation first, and then ask the magic mirror. This way, he should be able to find out his true identity. But that magic mirror. Max Livermore had a headache again. His relationship with his wife broke down, but there was still a chance to make up for it. But if something unexpected happened again, he would definitely not be able to go home again. Ah! Just as he was sighing silently, the nearby Nighthawks heard the noise and sent people to come, and Klein was also there. He was originally going to look for the little black cat tonight, and happened to be wandering in the alley nearby. Hearing the noise, he and a team member rushed here. This is what happened. Max Livermore's teammates explained what had just happened one by one. We were just nearby, and we didn't see any suspicious people.
He should be able to hide his spirit and avoid spiritual vision detection.
Max Livermore took over the topic and continued. As extraordinary people, the more we experience, the less we trust our own eyes, and instead believe more in the world seen by spiritual vision, but spiritual vision can also be deceived. Klein was very interested in this topic and asked, then how to hide your spirit?
I haven't figured this out yet, but I can be sure that the man tonight must be able to hide his spirit, otherwise he wouldn't be able to steal so easily and disappear.
Is something missing? Max Livermore hesitated, but still frankly said what was stolen. Then we can start checking from the existing sequence 7. Maybe there is a chance to find him. Klein gave his own opinion. Max Livermore said with a wry smile. You don't know that you just came to Backland. The extraordinary people of this extraordinary path are rarely recorded. Some nobles have great power. They can easily spend gold pounds to buy extraordinary materials and potion formulas. In addition, their identities are relatively special. Unless they are exposed, it is difficult to know whether they are extraordinary people, let alone find out what sequence they are extraordinary people. Like Earl Gill, if you don't know him inside and out, no one will casually investigate whether a count is an extraordinary person, let alone know that this count is already a sequence 6 corrupted baron. Klein was silent. At this time, the person in charge of drawing the image came over and handed the portrait to Max Livermore. Klein and others also took a few glances and said lightly, "This person is very familiar. During our operation in the sewer not long ago, there were witnesses who saw this person's figure."
Klein carefully compared and finally confirmed that this person was the mysterious man who helped them stop Mr. A last time. The armor, the great sword that can emit golden light, the blurred face, the mysterious whereabouts. One by one, they can match up. This shocked Klein even more. According to what happened tonight, this mysterious person is only a sequence 7. A sequence 7 dared to stop a sequence 5 shepherd? And he managed to escape unscathed. Such strength is indeed terrifying. It is worthy of Backland. The Beyonders who can survive here are indeed extraordinary. What, you also know his clues? This is great. Max Livermore was overjoyed and began to happily exchange information with Klein and others. After about half an hour, the supporters of the Steam and Mechanical Church appeared with the magic mirror erodes. This was the first time Klein saw such a spiritual magic mirror. It was really the same as the magic mirror in Snow White, that could answer questions. He was very curious. If the members of the Mechanical Heart hadn't told him that this magic mirror was very dangerous and difficult to get along with, he really wanted to ask this magic mirror a few questions. After understanding what happened, the bishop who came to support looked at Max Livermore, who will use erodes now. The scene was silent for a while, and Klein saw the fear, embarrassment, and evasive expressions on their faces one by one. He was getting more and more curious about this, but he knew that being too curious would not be a good thing, so he suppressed his curiosity. Seeing that no one took the initiative to stand up, Max Livermore sighed, walked to the front of the magic mirror erodes, and reached out to touch the mirror. Respected erodes, my question is, who stole the corrupted baron's extraordinary characteristics tonight? As Max Livermore's voice fell, the mirror's surface was rippled with bright waves, like a pool of lake water, showing a starry sky on this calm lake. The starry sky was dotted with stars, just like the picture of asking about the theft of the Roussel Memorial Exhibition. According to the principle of reciprocity, it's my turn to ask questions. If you answer wrong or lie, you need to accept a small punishment. Behind this sentence, there is a smiling face with a bright smile. This small change made Max Livermore stunned for a moment, but he didn't have the mind to think about other things now. Do you want to go home now and hug your wife and make peace? Yes, yes. After answering, Max Livermore looked at the magic mirror erodes in front of him with a shocked face. The question asked this time was so simple, which was not in line with its previous Little Devil style. Is the first question just to paralyze itself? The real trap is in the second question? Max Livermore's heart trembled, and he became more alert and careful. Dear erodes, my question is the robber this time the same person as the thief of the last Roussel Memorial Exhibition? A big word, yes, appeared on the mirror.
Then, a line of words appeared on the mirror. Poor Max Livermore, do you feel wronged about your recent experience? Yes. Max Livermore looked puzzled, and the Mechanical Heart members behind him also felt incredible. Is Rhodes in a very good mood today? Otherwise, how could it ask such a simple question with its previous temperament? Klein looked at their expressions curiously. He thought that this magic mirror Rhodes was pretty good. The questions asked based on the principle of equality were very simple and not scary at all. Just when he wanted to continue watching, the Night Watcher team member next to him reminded him that he still had to go on patrol to find the black cat. Klein followed his teammates and left with regret. At this time, Max Livermore, who was in a good mood, casually asked his third question. My third question is that person among those who visited Earl Gill recently? No, the mirror quickly gave an answer and asked a new question. How many mistresses do you have? Ah. Max Livermore's face was dull. Why did he suddenly ask such a question? Wasn't he in a good mood? Sure enough, he shouldn't believe in Rhodes' kindness. The little devil is its true nature. After hesitating for a long time, Max Livermore said with a stiff upper lip, I choose punishment. As soon as he said this, there was a booing around. This made him understand that it was basically impossible to reconcile with his wife. But he really couldn't answer this question because there were too many. Crack! A silver lightning with a lot of power hit the sky. Max Livermore's hair stood up, his ruddy face was burnt black, his eyes widened, and he fell straight down. Before he fainted, he had only one thought, that Rhodes' punishment tonight was obviously much heavier than before. Max Livermore's fainting caused the surrounding Mechanical Heart members to exclaim. Fortunately, this is a hospital, and they carried him directly to the bed. The magic mirror Rhodes, which was wrapped in the curtain again, outlined a wronged crying expression in the corner of the mirror where no one could see. In the study, Hastur looked at the extraordinary characteristics of the corrupted Baron placed in the safe, and was very satisfied with his actions tonight. He only knew that Count Gill would die tonight, but Will did not tell him exactly what time it was. So he hid not far from St. Mary's Hospital from the beginning, waiting to hear the cries in the ward above. Only then did he take action. The spirit body can be integrated into the wall. He quickly arrived at the ward first, but the extraordinary characteristics had not yet been released, so he could only choose to wait. It was not until the three members of the Heart of Machinery appeared and they used the sealed objects to extract the corresponding extraordinary characteristics that he emerged from the darkness. Originally, his first strike was to force the captain of the Heart of Machinery team to give up the safe in his hand, but unfortunately he refused to let go. He had no choice but to add another kick. The biggest gain he gained from tonight's battle was that the members of the Heart of Machinery had so many extraordinary items. Not only do they have their own unique extraordinary weapons, but they also have many accessories that are also extraordinary items. Arm guards to protect your arms, a small thunder prison to carry around, a pocket watch that can interfere with time, etc. Although they are not very powerful, their functions are very comprehensive. If they hadn't been concerned about the people in the corridor outside, he would have had to waste a little more energy to leave tonight. As for whether the Mechanical Heart can find him, he is not worried at all. This is Backland. There are so many Loan nobles, and it is impossible for them to investigate them all. There are always some more shady nobles who will hinder their law enforcement. Furthermore, I have secret authority and I can let them explore it, but it will be useless as long as I am not caught. Considering that he still had a little time to completely digest the Briber's potion in his body, Hastur took out the extraordinary characteristics of the corrupted Baron from the safe and put them in the room where he stored the extraordinary materials. In order to ensure safety, Hastur deliberately untied one of the paper cranes from a string of paper cranes and hung it alone in the room where extraordinary materials were stored. In this way, even if someone does sneak in, will be able to notice it. If you want to steal your own things under the watchful eyes of a mercury snake, humming, it's not that easy. Next, Hastur chopped the safe into pieces and disposed of them cleanly. After doing all this, he walked out of the room and went to Azishara's room next door to tease Azishara, who didn't go out tonight. After forcing her to go out for a period of time, Azishara now likes to run outside. If she didn't let her go out tonight, she would get sulky. It took a while to coax her. The next day, Asta, who was in a good mood, naturally prepared a gift for Will. He first asked butler Neil to send someone to buy him the most popular rainbow ice cream in Backland, and planned to taste it for Will first. In case of gastrointestinal discomfort, Will's small body would be even more unable to bear it. After tasting a few bites, Hasta waved his hand and asked someone to send a pile of so-called rainbow ice cream to Will. This food is not delicious, sweet and greasy, so it is better to leave it to Will himself to enjoy it slowly. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the tarot meeting was held again. Above the gray fog, Klein looked at the spot of light where Mr. Hanged Man was. He was absent from the last tarot session and finally regained his freedom. He also stated that he would come to attend the tarot session today. A lot of things have indeed happened recently. I don't know if Miss Justice and others have found Russell's diary during this time. Klein feels that since coming to Backland, the density of information in Russell's diary he has obtained is much less than before. If I had to use a metaphor, it would be like reading a serial novel. I started hydrology when I met the author. After a moment of silence, Klein touched the light spot and began this week's tarot session. When Miss Justice Audrey appeared, she naturally said hello to everyone, and then looked at Mr. Hanged Man, who had been absent from a tarot session. Derek and 4C also looked at Alger, wanting to hear from him the reason for his absence last week. Alger, who had expected such a scene, did not speak immediately. Now it was time for Mr. Fool to read Russell's diary. Mr. Fool, I only collected one Russell diary here. Dear Mr. Fool, these are Russell's diaries that I collected during this period. There are 4 in total. Audrey followed Alger and spoke. Very good. Klein expressed his approval of Miss Justice, who was generous and easy to collect Russell's diary. But when he started to look through the 5 pages of Russell's diary, he felt 100 horses galloping past in his heart. The contents of Miss Justice's 4 Russell's diaries are not as important as the contents of one of Mr. Russell's diaries from Mr. Hanged Man. The whole story is about Russell's romantic adventures, and the so-called danger comes from the husbands of noble ladies. After reading them all, Klein fell into deep thought. He really doesn't understand why Russell likes to record such things in his diaries so much. Didn't he feel embarrassed or ashamed at all when he wrote these contents? Or is he proud of these experiences, so he wrote this part more to commemorate his youth? That's not right. Russell's diary is also divided into earlier, middle and later periods. Judging from the content and tone of voice recorded here, it should have been written when Russell had some power in the middle period. In the end, Klein came to the conclusion. Russell was just greedy for other people's bodies. Bah, vile. Klein muttered a few words in his heart, and his depressed mood was much better. You can talk freely. After getting the nod, Alger looked around at everyone and slowly said, Last week, I met a terrifying and dangerous person, which prevented me from participating in the tarot club last week. I have already mentioned this to Mr. Fool. He knew that everyone would definitely wonder about the identity of that person, so he took the initiative to say, I don't know where he came from, nor do I know what terrifying identity he has. I only know that he has a young face, pale and thin, with a slender figure, and his facial features are not too outstanding. When he smiles, he is very contagious, and has a very simple and harmless feeling. He is extremely mysterious and powerful. A strong man from the Church of Storms fell in his hands without any resistance. He also subdued the Undead King, one of the 4 kings, and incorporated the Undead King's fleet, becoming the most terrifying pirate king on the sea at this stage, the Uncrowned King. Alger told the truth about some of the things he knew, and he also hoped to get information about that person from everyone present, especially Mr. Fool. That person was really terrible, and he had decided to leave the sea temporarily and return to Backland to rest. Audrey thought for a while, frowned slightly and said, It's really terrible. Even the Undead King has been conquered. Won't there be only one real pirate king on the sea in the future? She didn't know what level of extraordinary the Undead King was, but he should be above sequence 4 demigod. The one who can conquer the Undead King must be even more terrible. In the past, there were 4 kings standing side by side, but now this uncrowned king is the only one in power. This will definitely bring new shocks to the situation on the sea, and Lowen is a coastal country, and even a large part of its economy depends on this blood transfusion belt on the sea. If an accident happens, it must be terrible. A few days ago, she heard Earl Hall mention the problem of the sea defense line in South Wales. Now it seems that the person who proposed the corresponding countermeasures is really foresighted. Compared to Audrey's worry, first kept silent, she didn't have much yearning for the sea, and she didn't have much good feelings towards pirates. As for who will be the Pirate King, she didn't care at all.
Derek didn't quite understand what he heard. He only knew that Mr. Hanged Man had encountered a very terrifying enemy and almost couldn't come back. He couldn't help Mr. Hanged Man, he could only pray for him silently in his heart. Mr. Fool, who was sitting high in the first seat, saw that everyone was silent, and Mr. Hanged Man's eyes were always uneasily peeking at the area near him. He knew what he should say. There will be more and more incredible people in the future, and before the end of the world is about to sound, the existence hidden in the dark will stretch out their claws. He said something that didn't sound so nonsense. There was no way. He really didn't know the mysterious person who subdued the undead king, and didn't know his origins at all, so how could he solve the puzzles for the Hanged Man and others? There will be many more people like him in the future? Alger was shocked, and his eyes looked at Mr. Fool. He could only see that he was smiling, and he had no intention of continuing to solve his puzzles. Alas, I really can't stay on the sea anymore. I'd better seize the opportunity and run quickly. Alger no longer had any luck. What if that person thought the undead king was not fun and came looking for him again? Then he would be dead if he stayed on the sea. After thinking for a while, he said, "The situation in the southern continent is also very complicated recently. A large number of wealthy businessmen and dignitaries from the southern continent have fled to South Wiltshire and Lowen. There are also many warships from the Lowen Kingdom on the sea, and even ironclad ships that have just been put into use by the Navy. The southern continent is also urgently preparing for war. Warships are sent to patrol the nearby waters to prevent sneak attacks from outside the southern continent. There is also uncertain news. Most of the forces on the southern continent seem to have formed an alliance and are ready to ambush and kill the members of the Seven Gods Church who are still on the land of the southern continent." Alger then told a lot of information he heard from other pirates. During this period, because of the sudden change in the sea, many pirates were in danger, which prompted them to unite, and it was easier to obtain information than before. Furs and Derek didn't feel anything about these situations. Only Audrey felt heavy in her heart and felt indescribable discomfort. She has always disliked war, living in peace and contentment, and everyone can live a peaceful and good life. But now, even if she doesn't know much about politics and the situation between countries, she knows that the clouds of war have begun to gather, and the next war is not far away. The Kingdom of Lowen, located on the coast, will surely bear the brunt and become a war-torn place. It would be fine if the threat only came from the southern continent, but the Kingdom of Lowen still has its feud with the Fuzak Empire. Once the situation in Lowen changes, the Fuzak Empire may follow with a large-scale invasion. In this way, Lowen, who is surrounded by enemies from both sides, will have a high risk of defeat. Alas, I will see if I can remind Earl Hall to pay attention to the coastal defense issues in South Wales after I get back. Once the southern continent really dares to ambush all the members of the Church of the Seven Gods, then a war with far-reaching consequences will occur throughout the northern and southern continents. Alger glanced at the pensive Miss Justice and asked, "I want to know if the senior officials of the Lowen Kingdom also have plans to start a war. I can't guarantee that I will find out clearly. I can only say that I will try my best." Audrey took on this goal that highly overlapped with hers. Next, each of them shared some things, and Mr. Fool also took the opportunity to talk about some knowledge about Russell's diary that had just been handed over from the Hanged Man. Backland, the home of Earl Hall. As soon as Audrey finished the tarot session, she opened the door, called Susie, and asked Earl Hall what he was busy with today and what his mood was now. Susie answered one by one what she had inquired about, although with her current wisdom, she still could not fully understand what those words meant. Every time it wanted to ask Audrey, Audrey would always change the subject, saying that it shouldn't read too many books or think too much now.
Susie, I'll bring you something delicious when I come back. Woof. Susie waggled her tail excitedly. After leaving the room, Audrey first calmed down and organized what she would say later, then went to the kitchen to serve Earl Hall's favorite dessert, and then knocked on the door of Earl Hall's study. Earl Hall rubbed his brows to relieve the irritability in his heart. He felt much better after learning that it was his precious daughter who was coming to see him. The door opened, and Audrey came to Earl Hall's desk with dessert.
Dear Count Hall, if you continue to worry, Countess Hall will be angry.
Ha ha ha, with you here, there are no worries anymore. Earl Hall smiled and tasted the dessert brought by Audrey, and said with emotion, it would be better if everything could go so smoothly.
Audrey's heart moved slightly, and she walked behind Earl Hall, massaged his shoulders, and peeked at his face while saying, did something big happen recently? Even our resourceful Earl Hall is so troubled. Quote,
it's okay not to mention some things about the southern continent and South Wales. Earl Hall did not want to mention these troublesome things at this time, but instead asked, how is your recent relationship with Baron Campbell? Of course he is very friendly. Mr. Hasta is a very good friend of mine, and sometimes he is like a teacher who will guide me forward. Just friends and teachers? Audrey stopped massaging Earl Hall's shoulders, frowned slightly, and asked puzzledly, is there any other special relationship?
It's okay if you don't. Maybe this is the best choice.
Earl Hall seemed to be telling Audrey, but also seemed to be murmuring to himself.
Audrey pretended to be dissatisfied and said, Dear Earl Hall, do you even have to solve puzzles to get along with your own daughter?
Earl Hall said with a smile, I just thought of something. Maybe I should promote more young people and let them go out and have more adventures. Earl Hall, Audrey lengthened the title to express her dissatisfaction at the moment.
I promised not to solve puzzles, but why did I say something so incomprehensible? Okay, I'll make things clear right now. Earl Hall laughed, and after gesturing for Audrey to continue massaging her shoulders, he said after a while, the war is about to begin, and Southwell County, which will bear the brunt, needs suitable candidates to help the Grand Duke of Southwell guard it. Baron Hasta Campbell, who has a good personal relationship with you, is a good choice. Because he wrote a letter to the king long before the signs of war came, and I have also read that letter. He has a forward-looking vision, not only predicting the coming counterattack in the southern continent, but also predicting that South Wales will be the first place to face the test. For this reason, he wrote a lot of countermeasures on how to consolidate coastal defense. Firstly, it can prepare for the upcoming war. Secondly, it can also strangle the pirates who try to take advantage of the situation. Audrey listened blankly to Earl Hall's story in an appreciative tone. She had no idea that the person who raised the issue of coastal defense in South Wales would be Mr. Hasta. Listening to Earl Hall's tone, it is obvious that he has made a decision to recommend Mr. Hasta to go to South Wales to help the Archduke of South Wales guard the coastal defense line. I was still hesitant at first, because war is ruthless and he is still young. I can let him grow up for a few more years before entrusting him with important tasks. Earl Hall sighed and continued, if that Baron Hasta Campbell is someone you like, I won't push him into this war, but I have asked you what you think, and you have given a suitable answer. Since he cares so much about the affairs of South Wales, it can be seen that he also has a heart to make contributions to the country and wants to restore the former glory of the Campbell family. Then Duke Negan and I don't mind giving him a chance to try. Young people, there is no harm in going out and trying more. Audrey was stunned in place, and her hands that were originally massaging Earl Hall also stopped. This is the first time that Earl Hall has explained the kingdom's affairs so clearly in front of her. But she was not happy at all. It sounds like it means that it is because of her that Earl Hall has made up his mind to send Mr. Hasta to the battlefield in South Wales. She doesn't like war, because once a war starts, it means bloodshed and sacrifice. If Mr. Hasta goes to South Wales, his situation will definitely be very dangerous, far less safe than staying in Backland. Earl Hall saw what Audrey was thinking and comforted her, all this has nothing to do with you. He originally planned to go to Southville. I heard Hibbert say that he bought a lot of territory in Southville. In addition to the territory that originally belonged to their Campbell family, a large part of it was purchased from other nobles. But Audrey pursed her red lips tightly, not knowing what to say for a moment. He is indeed a little young, which is why I was upset before. After all, he is the last heir of the Campbell family, and I have to send him to the battlefield myself. Is it really Mr. Asta who volunteered? If you don't believe it, you can ask him now. I believe he will give you a positive answer. Then, when will you leave Backland? If the war situation changes, we will go to Southville at the end of the year. If the situation is stable, we can wait until after the new year. Roll answered them one by one, looking at the bewildered Audrey with a little heartache. He never liked to talk about national affairs in front of his family, especially in front of the naive and ignorant Audrey. However, this matter was indeed related to Audrey, so he made an exception to tell so many things. By the new year this year, the girl in front of him, his daughter, Audrey Hall, will be an adult, and will gradually bid farewell to the innocence of the past, and begin to learn to accept the ruthless changes of the world. I want to go down and rest. I didn't sleep well at noon today. Go. Roll watched Audrey leave the study, then looked back at the dessert on the desk and took another bite. It was not as sweet as when it first entered his mouth. In the bedroom, Susie was waiting behind the door. It was expecting Audrey to bring it something delicious this time. Unfortunately, the Audrey it was waiting for came empty-handed and brought nothing. Woof, it asked, but Audrey seemed not to hear it. She walked straight to the bed, then lay down, and pulled up the quilt to cover her cheeks. Susie glanced at it, first propped the door closed, and then ran to Audrey's side. Audrey, what happened? There was no echo from the quilt. Susie patiently called out 2 or 3 times before Audrey's voice came from inside the quilt. Mr. Asta, I'm leaving Backland. Woof. Susie's eyes were full of confusion. Isn't it just leaving Backland?
Is there anything to be surprised about? Is she even sad about it? It didn't understand. It wanted to ask Audrey, but in the end it said nothing. It lay at the foot of the bed, shaking its tail and fell asleep. It made no difference to it whether it lived in Backland or in a small village in the countryside. It would never leave Audrey's side. Wherever Audrey was, it would be there. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.